Three, two, one. Hello, algoriters. Court is back in session, and today we have a special session where we're going to be profiling one of our legal beagles. I'm Al Reynolds, and this is the Court of Public Opinion. I'm serving as your judge, and you, the viewers, will be the jury. The Court of Public Opinion is a place where you, the people's voice, can and will be heard. Be sure to hit that like button. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you've already subscribed, be sure to hit that share button and invite someone else to come over here and enjoy this show. Also, don't forget, we love your comments. Please drop down in the comment section. And then tonight, I'll give you a little hint of who the private profile is with. It's our legal beagle that you're supposed to use the blue hearts for. Yes, that's correct. Our legal beagle entertainment attorney, Jordan Williams. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Look who's back.
Look who's
back. Look who's back. So for those who don't know, and Jordan can share with you, sometimes in court, the judge will ask you to come join him in his chambers. And he'll ask you to come in the chambers for various or myriad reasons, because sometimes he wants to talk about the case off the record. Sometimes he wants to catch up with the lawyer to see what they're working on, if there's something that he can help them understand better. And sometimes he's just trying to get to know the lawyers that pass through his courtroom. And in this case, that's exactly what I would like to do. We get a lot of messages here, and I get a lot of emails of people asking me all the time, how did you choose the lawyers for the show? Like, how do we choose Counselor Redwine? How do we choose Counselor Ross? How do we choose Kyra? How do we choose Jordan? And we're going to break that down and dig a little deep into why I chose them. I wanted a diverse group of lawyers that had the same vision as me. And that was not only to offer a show that was entertaining, but also a show that was going to teach you the law so that you would be more prepared if you were ever in an unlawful situation, similar to the cases that we discuss. All right. So with that being said, we're going to ask attorney. They call them attorneys. They call them counselors. I call them attorneys, counselors, and legal beagles. Jordan Williams. All right, Jordan, are you ready for us to get started on talking about all things Jordan Williams?
I am ready. I'm ready.
All right, so this is my first question, and a lot of people don't understand. Sometimes, you have a Jewish doctorate.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So and she worked very hard. She goes to years of school for that. That Jewish doctorate is almost like having an MD. It's almost like having a PhD. It's almost like having a DDS. So in the correct way of addressing her, some people who have JDs want to be called counselor. Some people want to be called attorney. Not many want to be called legal beagles, but I get away with that because they are my legal beagles. But for the audience, tell me, what do you want to be called, or how would you like to be addressed? And are you that type of lawyer that outside of work, you go by your name, or do you prefer to be, respected and called counselor outside of work as well?
So I like for people to just call me Attorney Williams in professional settings. Mm-hmm. I will say outside of work, I just go by my first name. I work in-house, so I tend to be very casual, especially if I'm networking, because in entertainment, there is not a lot of stuffiness. So right. If I'm at a networking event, calling me Jordan is fine. I will say, though, I have attached that Esquire at the end of my name if I'm emailing to go off of my landlord, right. Wi-Fi people. So sometimes I put that extra little sauce on the end so they know who to play.
Don't mess with me. Now, when you're out, and I'm just going to go in that how to be addressed. When you're out, Jordan, and you're trying to get your stellar groove back, and you meet a guy, and he says, how are you doing? I'm Dr. Henry Lewis. How do you respond back?
I'm attorney Jordan Williams.
Oh, okay.
Of course.
So you throw the heat when the heat's thrown at you too. You throw the heat when the heat's thrown at you.
Well, you gotta play a little tennis. You know, I've learned that guys that got something behind their name, they like a little pushback. So you gotta do a little tennis. Return the energy.
Tennis. All right, okay, tennis with the good hair and the popping lips. Okay, here we go. So let's start off. Let's talk about your career path. And you know, I want to make sure that I took some of the questions that people had about why we chose who we chose, and I want to incorporate it in the question that I'm asking you. So try to hang in there with me because some of them are a little bit lengthy. But can you tell us about your journey from earning your JD at Southern University Law Center to becoming, because it doesn't happen like this. I want people to understand. You don't just go to law school, walk out of law school, and become in-house counsel at one of the largest media platforms in the world, not the country, but in the world. But so can you tell us about that journey? How did you go from having a Jewish doctorate at Southern University? And do we have pictures of her at Southern University?
Y'all better have some pictures.
Layla. My Lord. Okay, we got it. Woo. Law Center.
Yes.
So how did you make that? How did you make that transition?
Yeah, so my undergraduate degree is actually in mass communication. So I always knew that I wanted to be in media, entertainment. That's been my passion pretty much my whole life. So when I got to law school, I was super intentional from my first year of law school about what type of internships I took. Okay. So my first internship was at the Special Olympics headquarters in Washington, D.C., and I worked on the agreements for talent for the Special Olympics, because, you know, every 4 years they do it in a different country. Mm-hmm. So I, you know, read my first contract, like for the first time. It was very intimidating, but also learning about how do you negotiate with talent, particularly musical artists. You know, you have to license their music to be able to perform in whatever other country. There's like a lot of logistics that go behind that. So I went to that internship, and each internship that I took after that, I made sure it had some element of entertainment or media or generally intellectual property, which is your copyrights and trademarks. Mm-hmm. So my last year of law school, I actually interned at the federal court in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with Judge James Brady. And he allowed me to work with him on a lot of trademark cases. So I got to actually sit in hearings, hear the questions that he asked to the attorney, read the briefs, help write his opinions, help do research with his clerk and staff. And so from there, when I went to get my first job, which was in New York City, of course, I had no real experience as an attorney, but I was able to sell the skills that I picked up in my internships. Right. So because I had that knowledge coming right out of law school, I ended up at the ACLU headquarters in New York. That was my first job as an attorney, and I worked on entertainment partnerships for them, marketing, and also talent relations. So I just spun that really into each job. I made sure I had a goal of, this is the skill I want to pick up from this job, because you always got to think 2 jobs ahead about what are you going to be talking about in that interview 2 jobs from now. So from the ACLU, I went to NASCAR. I was in-house there. And I just continued to, you know, in each job, like I said, do something a little different, do marketing, do employment, do entertainment. So the role that I'm in now, I do all of those areas of law. I call myself an entertainment lawyer, but there might be some random tax question that comes up, you know, in the UK that I have to deal with. So all of my experiences, I think, together set me up for success in my current role.
So what I'm thinking, I'm hearing you saying then, counselor, is that where you start isn't where you finish. And then you can always, where you start, as long as you take the nuggets out of where you started, apply it to your next. It's almost like climbing stairs and building, right?
Exactly.
That as long as you do have a focus and a goal, where you are doesn't define. Like if you started out, you know, at the ACLU, you knew that wasn't where you were going to ultimately be, but you said, okay, let me get what these nuggets I need out of there in order to apply it where I'm ultimately going to go. And I've always been like that as well, because, you know, sometimes when you do a little bit of everything, you find yourself in your main role, right? And a question will come up that nobody can answer, but you remember back at 2 jobs back where you had a client who had dealt with the exact same issue and
Mhm.
at least enough to lead the conversation and lead the research to go in the right direction to get the answer for the client. So I'm
Exactly.
glad that you shared that this has been a building block for you. All right. So when we talk about building blocks, talk to me about was there ever anxiety when you were at a firm or at a legal assignment that you knew ultimately wasn't you? Maybe the money wasn't good. How did you navigate that not so positive experience, knowing that you're still trying to stay focused to
Yeah.
go to do bigger things? How do you navigate that rub there when it's not really what you want to do, but you do have to have a check and you're trying to get experience and you want to move forward?
That's a great question. So my first job that I told y'all about when I worked in New York, I only made $58,000 in New York City. Like I was broke. I had no money. I had 2 roommates. We lived in Bed-Stuy. It was very like humble beginnings for me. But I always knew that I had an ultimate goal. So in my mind, that was a 2-year max job. Like
Ah,
at 2 years, it didn't matter what I was doing. I knew I was getting out of that job and going to the next thing. I really liked what I did. I enjoyed the team. You know, I was very intentional about the type of projects that I took on because, like I said, I knew it was setting me up for something else. But I took it knowing that I'm not going to be in this very long. And to be quite honest with you, for any early career attorneys or even law students out there, a lot of these jobs do recognize when you're starting off that you may not be there a long time. A lot of
mhm.
us start off doing jobs that we don't want to do just to get your foot in the door. That is quite normal. So I think it's really good, whatever your first or even second job is to think about, what am I about to get out of this? Because I might not get the salary I think I deserve. I might
So
not do every project, but you get something out of it.
right. So talking about that, this is, you're getting your foot in the door, you gave yourself a 2-year max. Like, talk to me, how important is it, especially in law? Because in my head, the law field is very small. You guys all know each other. So how important is
Yeah.
it that you always put your best foot forward? Because you might be at the ACLU, you might be like, huh, I ain't gonna be here long. But them ACLU folks be talking
Mhm.
and they talk to other people, especially when they find out where you land. And they can, they have little friends over there where you land, and they just want to share how Jordan William was over here. Talk to us how important it is for you to always, even if it's a job that you don't like, how important it is to maintain your professionalism, especially in law, because it's so tiny. Because people know, they look you up, they know if your license been suspended, they know if you've been told on, all this type of stuff. Tell me how important it is to like make sure you stay up and up even when you may be down.
I mean, it's extremely important. First of all, people are always getting in your business, especially if you become something or somebody that they want to connect themselves with. Like Al just said, they're doing a full background report on you. They're asking about you, all of that. I have always been extremely upfront about what I wanted to do. When I was in law school, I was telling everybody I'm gonna be an entertainment attorney. When I got my first job, I was intentional about, look, I want to do entertainment. I'll do this other little stuff y'all asked me to do. But keep in mind, I'm here to do entertainment,
Gotcha.
right? So it's just being honest about what your goals are. It's going to be really hard to get from A to B if people don't know what you want to do. So I was lucky enough to have mentors and professors and managers who I was able to share what my goals were, and they actually positioned me for that. So, I'm very glad that I never had a manager who expected me to like be at the company for the rest of my life. That's just not practical. But they
Mhm.
would actually have the conversation, how can I help position you for what you ultimately want to do? So if you don't have someone, whether at your job or a mentor like that, bust down the door. Just say,
Mhm.
hey, I want to talk about my goals and I want to know if you have any advice on how I can achieve them. And I found that 9 times out of 10, people are willing to help you. You do have to make sure that your name is good, which sometimes means taking assignments you don't want to take, right? Like I've had an intern before who I asked her to do something and she was like, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, you may not want to do it, but this is actually going to help me see your, your work product to see if you're ready to be with me in an entertainment meeting. I
Right.
need to see what you got. So just keep in mind that you probably are always being tested so they can see, can I support taking this person to the next level?
And definitely when you work at the bigger firms, anybody that works in
Yeah.
it works in a majority firm, white glove, hard toe shoe firm, every day is a test. Every day
Every day.
they're documenting your performance. Every day they're looking at not what you're doing great per se. They're looking at where you're falling short. So everybody keep that in
Yep.
mind, front of mind. All right. Okay. So you're out of the ACLU. You moved out of New York City. Right now you are in Hollywood. You are in Los Angeles.
But
You are at the epitome, the pinnacle of entertainment. You're an in-house counsel at a major entertainment studio. What are some of the most challenging aspects of negotiating nowadays, like especially with development, production, and license and talent agreements for television programming? So let me repeat that because I had a lot there. What are some of the most challenging aspects as in-house counsel when it comes to you negotiating, developing, producing, licensing, and doing talent agreements for television programs?
yeah, the industry is ever changing. Like right now, the number one topic on everyone's minds is AI. And how do we deal with AI? We just had a strike with two unions, the WGA and SAG, around this issue, this being the primary issue, right? So for me on a day-to-day, it's wondering, okay, what is this talent rep going to ask for? What can we actually promise? What are we not ready for yet? And it's staying on top of the legal developments surrounding AI and really all media technology. So I've found, in my negotiations, sometimes there are lawyers that they have very, particular asks for their clients, for example. And as the in-house counsel for, the studio, I need to be aware of honestly anticipate their ask, but also being aware of, okay, this is probably what they're going to ask for. This is probably what we can, allow in this particular contract. So I would say just making sure I'm staying on top of the knowledge is really, I wouldn't say a struggle, but it's really hard because it's always changing.
Mm-hmm.
On top of, having the legal knowledge, I work in entertainment. So I have to also know what's going on the business side of the industry, right? So
Right.
right now there are mentions of mergers of Paramount and Skydance. And, a lot of these major companies are making deals with talent, Netflix, they're doing a lot on the marketing side. I have to know what's going on in my industry to know what competition is doing. So it's just a matter of, making sure that you're staying fresh. Don't ever feel like, oh, I've learned everything I need to learn, so I'm good. Like it's being a lifetime student.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. Can you share? I love it when I say, can you share? Can you share a particular memorable project or negotiation that you were involved in recently?
Let me think about that one. Let's see. Well,
Without telling the names, you could probably say,
yeah.
a big series, something.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I will say we recently did a very big talk show, and it is one of the first of its kind. I will say that. Maybe when it drops, I'll let y'all know what it is. But it's the first of its kind. We had almost 40 guests, like co-hosts, coming through the show, as well as the main panelists. So that was memorable for me. One, because I did all those deals in like 3 days, which is crazy. Like though doing that amount of deals would normally take months. So cutting it down to that short amount of time was great. Being able to go on set for the filming of each episode was great because they would be talking about something crazy, and I would literally have to hop in and say, "Okay, hold on, we get a little spicy. Some of this we'll have to edit out. So let's redirect the conversation." Being able to do that to me is what makes my job fun. I'm not the type of lawyer that just sits behind a desk all day. Like I'm actually out on set talking to talent, talking to the director, actually annotating the scripts. So I feel like, for that particular talk show, I pulled every bit of knowledge, legal, business, street smarts, everything to pull off what became a very phenomenal show.
Oh, I can't wait to hear what this show is. Okay, let's move on into industry trend insights because it sounds like that's kind of, you know, a big thing for you as the industry has changed. Can
Yeah.
you tell us what trends you believe will have the biggest impact on entertainment law in the
Mm.
next few years?
Definitely AI. I mean, it's affecting how we create TV, how we create movies, how we create music, games. Like it's extending into every branch of entertainment. And I know, a lot of the conversation last year about AI was fearing AI, right? It was very scary. We don't know, what's going to happen. Are we going to be out of work because of this? I will actually say we started using AI well before these discussions were happening. We just weren't calling it that, right? We were
Mm,
calling it visual effects. So it's essentially the same thing. I actually think that where we netted out with the SAG and with the WGA negotiations was pretty fair. I feel like that's going to have a ripple effect because some of those changes haven't actually yet been implemented. So we still have some ways to go in terms of seeing what the day-to-day impacts of those negotiations will be. I know for the next negotiation, there's going to be even more conversation about AI. And simultaneously, while we're negotiating this, we're creating new technology, right? Like AI is
yeah,
going to be a
yeah.
thing of the past very soon, and we're going to be on to the next thing. So AI, I think, is like the biggest thing in entertainment that everybody is grappling with right now.
Okay, so let's dump the professional talk. I want to drive and dive into some personal stuff.
Oh,
So,
Lord.
as a little girl in Louisiana, come on, there we go. As a little girl growing up in
That
Louisiana,
was cute.
how
I
has your
understand.
background, and your upbringing influenced your professional ethos
Mm,
and your approach to your work? Because I can look at this little girl right here, and this tells me already this little girl didn't go out the house without her braids being done correctly. Her clothes had to match, and she had to have her accessories together. So
yes.
tell me, how does coming from Louisiana and how has your background and upbringing influence your your ethos and approach to your job as an entertainment lawyer?
Yeah, so I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana, which is like the third biggest city in Louisiana. New Orleans, Baton Rouge got some numbers on us. So I grew up remembering when it was still kind of a small town. It's since grown so much. But I say that to say, like, people from Shreveport are very humble people, very hardworking people. So I've brought that with me to Hollywood, actually. I
Mhm.
try to be very humble, very personable. I'm always meeting people, whether it's, at sister companies, whether it's talent, whether it's, production partners, whatever. And I found that, because I'm so personable, I'm quick to go up to the CEO or the president or the vice president and introduce myself. I've been able to create so many meaningful relationships in this industry. And I think, unfortunately, some people come into this industry and it goes to their head and they
Mm.
they think extremely highly of themselves, but to the point where it actually undermines what they're trying to do for their career. So I will say growing up in a small city has really helped me understand the power of relationship, the power of
Mhm.
humility. I will say I bring that with me at work. And even when I'm just out and about, I have so many mentees I think it's quite funny because I was in these shoes not too long ago, but they'll call and they want to be extra professional. And I really do appreciate that. But I'm like, okay, let's get all that out the way. Let's have a real conversation. Keep
Right.
it, I want them to feel like they can call me if they're having a bad day, if they don't know, what state they want to get barred in. I really want to have that kind of big sister relationship with them. So I take all the lawyer stuff off. And I'm like, talk to me for real.
Right. Well, you know what? You don't get that often. You know the thing that I'm from Horse Pasture, Virginia. Moved there when I was a young kid. That's my mother's hometown. Maybe 500 people in the town. You borrow sugar from your neighbor if you're out of sugar. You don't
Mhm.
lock your car doors and you don't lock your house doors. It's kind of the community that I lived in. The preacher is the store clerk and also delivers the mail.
Right.
That's how small horse pasture is. Okay. And I always say that the work ethos that I brought was because I didn't have it. I worked so hard to find out the right way to get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you just had a different work ethic and you had a different focus because you didn't have a father who was a lawyer. Everybody you go to law school's father was a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have a father and a mother that was worked in the legal field and they could help coach you through certain things, you know? So you had to find it within your own drive. Right? To be the successful one, to be the determined one, to say, I'm going to be an entertainment lawyer and stay focused and find mentors to keep you on track, find jobs that are going to derail you to keep you on track. And then you find, you know, if you keep all of that on track and keep the hard work going, you will find yourself in that dream job.
Yep.
That's always felt. And I always felt like if you come from a small town or if you come from a challenging background, you're usually the one with the more heart and the more gut to like get it done and be the best. Okay, so let's keep going. What advice would you give to aspiring lawyers who are interested in pursuing a career in entertainment law? Because it just seems so glamorous. What advice would you give?
Honestly, it is not as glamorous as y'all think. But the advice that I would give is know what's going on in the industry. You really have to understand the business aspect. Even if you're a lawyer at a firm, if you don't understand what's going on with streaming, with union deals, with AI, all of these things have such an impact on what we do day to day. So I'm always impressed when I meet, you know, a law student, an early career attorney who is telling me, you know, well, I heard your company was doing this, this, and this, and I read about this deal that you just closed, and that's very impressive. It is a way to make yourself stand apart from the company.
Hey, I like that. So tell me this then. What has been the most significant challenge you faced in your career, and how did you overcome it?
There's been a few. But I will say, you know, there is something to be said about being an HBCU law school graduate. There are only 6 HBCU law schools. So, you know, when we meet each other, it's like a little family reunion kind of, you know. But I will say, I have had people try to say like, oh, you went to less school, less that. And it's funny to me because they haven't been in the rooms I've been in. You worried about what school I'm going to. Look at the resume. Look at this resume. Get into this resume and see where I've been and who I worked for. Right. So I found that like people will try to like look me up and because they don't know what Southern University Law Center is, they're not putting respect on it. But then when I come into the negotiation and I know what I'm talking about, and
then they sit up straight, right? It's different, right? Do you think, you know, and especially the hard toe, white glove skyscraper law firms, do you think that they look down on you because you went to Southern Law?
Not everyone. I will definitely say not everyone. Luckily, so many HBCU graduates have, you know, climbed the ranks of a lot of these big firms. And so I think that has helped kind of change the narrative. We definitely help each other. We definitely put on for each other. But I will say every now and then you do run into someone who's like, why do we even still need HBCUs? You know, and I don't get caught up in those conversations because I don't have anything to prove to those people. But it's a matter of if you are someone who is at an HBCU law school or not, there are going to be people that have things to say. Ignore those people. There are so many of us who are CEOs, who are in the C-suite, who are general counsels that came from HBCU law schools. Have my group chat at work is Howard, and they get on my nerves. All they be the HU all day. I get tired of hearing that. But it's so many of them, and they've created a pipeline, just like, you know, the other HBCU grads have worked to create a pipeline so that we're taking care of each other. So I would just say, ignore the foolishness.
All right, come on. Let's keep it moving. One more question. Can you highlight one of your proudest achievements or moments in your legal career so far?
My proudest moment, I would say just doing exactly what I said I was going to do. Like what I'm doing now, working in Hollywood, being on the ground, doing the big negotiations. That's exactly what I told people that I was going to be doing when I first entered law school. Not everybody believes me, but that's your problem. I feel like I'm just proud that I stuck true to my word and I had a goal in mind and achieved that goal.
That's pretty amazing. I like to hear that. Now, I think we have a picture of you in law school. I think with the ladies, it was a whole bunch of ladies. Where was that?
Um, so this is actually, I recently was on a panel at the Corporate Council Women of Color Conference. It was in National Harbor, Maryland this past September. So I was on a panel about the power of networking. So these are my fellow panelists. We had an amazing panel. That conference, if you are a lawyer, or if you are in the legal industry at all, that is such an amazing conference to go to. There are representatives from all Fortune 50 companies, the major law firms are there. And it's really kind of like a family reunion, and you get, advice from people who've been in your shoes. So we had, General Counsel of Apple, General Counsel of Uber, have been some of the keynote speakers. And it's just, 4 days of getting amazing advice. If you want to come hear me talk.
Okay, as we close out our time with you, Jordan, and we definitely enjoyed our time with you and understanding a little bit about you. Let's talk. Let me see. I think I want to know this. I want to know this. This is just me being the judge that I am. Okay, how do you envision the next phase of your career unfolding? And are there any new areas you are particularly excited to explore?
That is such an interesting question, because I feel like this is the time where I'm kind of, having those thoughts and dreams right now. But I see myself maybe doing more executive type work. I think as a lawyer, we pick up so many skills that it's like, okay, what do I want to do next? Because after you've done 1,000 contracts, they all kind of look and feel the same. So I'm actually open to challenging myself to go to maybe a different part of the business and see, like, can I redo what I did as a lawyer being in this particular executive position. I also have been pushing myself to do more media, to really, I'm a teacher at heart. I actually taught a semester at Southern. I taught trademark law. And so pushing myself to do more educational work and really teaching creators how to protect their art, how to build their companies, how to protect their companies, what it means to license, how you should be getting paid to license, right? So those are all things that are on my vision board. And I just need to figure out, how am I going to make this all work together?
Absolutely. And y'all, this is the very reason why I have the wonderful entertainment attorney, Jordan Williams, because she too is interested in educating. And this is also a form of mentoring. Being on these platforms are a form of mentoring because people can see individuals that look like them performing at the highest levels. When I tell you she is in-house counsel at one of the most major entertainment studios in the business, this woman right here is, and she spends time with us during the week here on the Court of Public Opinion, sharing all of that insight with all of you. I just want to say thank you very much, Jordan, and I do hope the best for you in your career. And I'm sure whatever it is that you want to manifest, it's going to be manifested. All right, everybody, algoriters, let's throw some of those blue hearts in the chat to show Jordan all types of love. Drop down in the comments section and let us know, what do you want to know about our legal beagle entertainment attorney, Jordan Williams? And don't forget, hit that like button if you haven't liked it already. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. Hit the share button if you want to share this particular show with someone. And don't forget, we love your comments and we love your questions. This will conclude today's session in the Court of Public Opinion. And we want to thank our legal beagle, Jordan Williams, for being very honest, frank, and telling of all of her experience. Everyone, have a good day. Court is